Hey, what's up, everybody? You guys made it to the afternoon edition of Just in the Nick of Crime, covering the Diddy trial. We are getting toward the end of week 4. Apparently, they expect to have this all wrapped up by July 4th, although I can't imagine that anybody's going to actually be in court on July 4th. Now, that being said, if you missed the earlier midday recap, you can check that out on the Sean Diddy Combs playlist on my YouTube profile. It is there for you to look at. But I was just telling the people on TikTok, because I always go live on TikTok first, let people kind of come in before I go live here, is that I might, starting next week, and I'm going to make this decision tomorrow, but next week I might start doing these recaps just once a day, so y'all aren't having to try to keep up with everything twice, and then you get to hear the whole thing at the end of the day. And I'm thinking probably around 4:30 p.m. Central Time is when I will do that, because that's before my kid gets home. 4:15, 4:30 Central Time. So I will keep you guys posted on what I decide on that. And maybe I'll even do it later in the evening. I don't know, but I'll keep you guys posted on what I decide on that, basically. I think that might be easier for everybody. Let me know. Because forget Diddy and Trump. Forget Diddy. Elon and Trump are going at it on the internet. Yes, I am well aware. However, codename CC, I am not a political creator, and while I am watching this unfold with my mouth on the floor with the stuff that they are doing, I am not the creator to cover it. I'm not the creator to cover that. But anyways, let me know what you're thinking. We got one feedback saying that would be great. Let me know what you guys think about that. If you're watching this on the replay, definitely let me know and see what you guys would think, and we can kind of check that out. Anyways, can you do the recap, please? I'm getting to it. If you have an issue with my time frame, you can find it somewhere else. That's how this goes. I am not Dance Monkey Dance here for your enjoyment. I do this because I want to do it, not because y'all are making me. That being said. David Camp is, we have somebody else in our comments. David Camp is coming out as gay. Congratulations. It's Pride Month, David. Let's give him a round of applause. He just came out as gay. Where's my thing so we can give him a round of applause? Congratulations, David Camp. Congratulations. We all really support you and your endeavors. I'm glad that older people like you feel comfortable coming out. It's amazing. Thank you. Congratulations, sir. Pride Month, guys. Pride Month. Now, that being said, before we get into the Diddy thing, I have a major update for you guys in regard to Travis Decker. Now, like I said to y'all before, we're going to get to the Diddy stuff really quick, but this is a very important case, more important than Diddy, more important than anything else that we were talking about, at least in my opinion right now. This will be very brief, and I'm doing it right here because I know that I have a larger audience when I do this show. That being said, let's talk about Travis Decker. For a lot of you guys have been following this case with me since it broke, and I just went through all of the latest reports from the last 24 hours, and there's definitely some new information that we need to get out there. I will also make this in shorter formats, Reels, TikTok videos, and Shorts. So do expect that, as well as a post with all of the photos I'm about to show. Now, if you happen to be on TikTok, you might want to jump over to YouTube if you were following this case, because I'm about to show you guys a lot of pics that most of y'all have not seen, as well as some Ring video camera footage, right, of this guy. So with how big my platforms are across it, we have between all the platforms that I'm on, we have about 2.2 million people. And my goal is hopefully that we can get this out and hopefully sound the alarm and get people out there. So right now I can tell you, here's the first thing that you guys want to know. Do they think he's dead? And the answer to that is no. Law enforcement believes that Travis Decker is still very much alive and actively trying to evade capture. Okay, so that's coming from local law enforcement, FBI, and Department of Homeland Security. All right, they are focusing search right now in Washington, specifically around Chelan County, in wilderness areas that he's known to be familiar with. Now, I know many of you guys saw reports yesterday about a possible sighting in McCall, Idaho. Now, that has been confirmed as a false alarm. He was not there. But what's new is this, and this is really important for you guys to know, okay, is that authorities are now urging, if you are in Washington State, if you have friends, family in Washington State, listen very carefully, okay? Because if you live, basically authorities are urging residents in multiple counties to take extra safety precautions. So if you live in Chelan, Catitas, I think that's how you say it, King, Chenomish, or Okanagan counties. I know I'm butchering that. I apologize, guys. They are asking people to secure all doors and windows, including outbuildings, sheds, anywhere someone could hide. They're also asking people to leave outside lights on at night and to report any suspicious activity immediately. And that is because they are concerned that Travis Decker could be seeking shelter in unoccupied homes, cabins, or remote structures. Now, on the search side, they've got 2 helicopters from Spokane County in the air, plus Chelan County's air support unit doing sweeps. They've also executed search warrants on his electronics and other locations in the region and are developing new leads from that as well. There's also a new, which I'm going to show you guys in a second, so if you want to jump over, you can. They've also just released Ring doorbell footage of Travis recorded on the days before the murders. In the video, you're going to see him acting strangely, running his hand along the door frame, moving in kind of an odd way. This is the last known video of him, and they are hoping that someone might recognize his movements, his clothing, his behavior, and I will try to add a link to the description notes if I can remember to do that after the show. But if not, you can Google the video for sure. But here, let me show you the video real quick, and it's very short. If I can get this off the thing. Oh, yeah, okay. Let me play this for y'all. If you are on TikTok, you won't be able to see it, but yeah, real quick. All right, play. It's eerie because they added the music to it. All right, so that's kind of what you guys can see. That's what they're looking for if anybody has seen it. I'll let this finish kind of playing out, and then we're going to talk about what else we have going on.
We will not rest.
All right, so we don't need to see that anymore. Let's remove that. All right, that was the press conference. We don't need that. So that being said, so we talk about changing his facial hair. Let's get to that. So here is another, like a picture that they've kind of been using, but let's talk about facial hair and stuff like that real quick. We'll talk about that in a minute. So in addition to this, they've also released photos, brand new photos of his arm tattoos, clear close-up shots, because even if he changes clothes or tries to cover his appearance, those tattoos could give him away. And I'm going to add these for sure 100% on Facebook and Instagram in a separate post that shows the pictures so that you guys can screenshot and share those out. But I'll also do a short TikTok video, minute and a half TikTok video, real short, etc. on it. So let me show you guys some of the other pictures that we have going on here. That was him from the Ring camera. This is a couple more pictures of him right here. This is him. This is a really good photo of his tattoos right here. So you can kind of see, I'll leave this up for a minute while I kind of read, and then we'll talk about more. Now, for those of y'all, to recap for anybody who is just joining this particular story, and we are going to get to the Diddy thing in a moment. Please don't think that we're not. But again, I have more audience this time of day when I do this stuff. So I want to make sure that we talk about this because it's important. But for anybody who's joining this story late, Travis Decker is a former U.S. Army infantryman, a combat vet who served in Afghanistan in 2014. He is trained in survival, trained in evasion, and his own father has said that he lived fully off the grid for up to 2.5 months at a time in the past. That is why this manhunt is so challenging. He knows how to disappear. And tragically, this is the man now wanted for the murders of his 3 young daughters, 5-year-old Olivia, 8-year-old Evelyn, and 9-year-old Peyton. Their bodies were found in sleeping bags inside his tent at Rock Island Campground this past weekend. Now, here's something that makes it a little bit more chilling and some more new information for you guys, okay? His former neighbor, Ben Nguyen, I think that's how you say that, just spoke out to the media. He said that in the last few months, Travis's behavior had changed drastically. He was pacing around the house, looking gaunt. He was acting paranoid, and that Whitney, the ex-wife, had confided in him that Travis had beaten her before. Ben said Whitney was terrified of Travis toward the end of their marriage and had been trying to protect the children, especially after Travis stopped taking his medications. And this matches what Whitney herself has also shared, that Travis had been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, had stopped taking his prescribed medications, and that she was very concerned for the children's safety. This was not a case where no one saw the warning signs. People around them knew Travis was spiraling, but tragically, this still happened. As of right now, the reward for information leading to his arrest remains at $20,000. And please, I cannot stress this enough. If you do see this man, do not approach. He is considered armed and extremely, extremely dangerous. call 911 immediately. You can also contact the Shelland County Sheriff's Office tip line, submit tips online, or contact the U.S. Marshals. I'll make sure to get all that information put in the description as well. Lastly, for those of you guys who have been asking, the verified GoFundMe for Whitney is now up to $900,000. That is linked in my link tree for anybody who wants to do that. And I never, ever promote GoFundMes. This one is a very rare exception. But it is verified. It is real. So that's where things stand right now with this. This is absolutely still an active, very urgent manhunt. They are worried that if he is not caught soon, he could evade capture for months. The more eyes that we have on this case, the better chance it is of getting this monster off the street. Please share this update. And as always, once we have some more information, of course, I'll let you know, and I will give you guys the tools that you need to be able to share this a little bit better. And to the additional pictures for you, here are some close-ups of the arm tattoo, what he has underneath his arm, what he has on his stomach and his forearm as well, so that you can have that. Now, with that being said, let's get into the Diddy trial, because what happened. So here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. Make this book. Oh, there you go. I didn't even put in the update for the forensic analysis because all he did was talk about how the text message was done, and I don't think that was overly important or interesting. However, Jane took the stand today, and Jane is very, very interesting. And I got a couple updates to tell you guys first, but Jane is very, very interesting. So the first thing I did want to give you guys an update. If you were here for the midday recap, you guys heard that Diddy got in trouble. He was nodding towards the jury, which might not sound like a big deal, but it basically could be looked at as trying to interfere with the jury. Like, hey, yeah, that's right. You should believe this. That's true. I'm agreeing with this, right? And because of that, Diddy received a stern warning from the judge regarding that conduct, because that's how it could be looked at. And Judge Subramanian informed the court that he twice observed Combs nodding vigorously towards the jury, looking at the jury, nodding towards them, looking at them, while one of Combs' attorneys was conducting an aggressive cross-examination of a prior witness. The judge warned that if Combs continued attempting to interact with the jurors, he would be banned from the courtroom for the remainder of the trial, meaning that he would have to watch his rest of his trial from a monitor in the building, right? Following the lunch break, however, his legal team was seen speaking with him afterwards. Combs appeared relaxed and was seen smiling, potentially in reaction to what his lawyers perceived as a stronger performance during the cross-examination. So it believes that they might have spoken to him also about this issue. And we'll see if it continues to happen, then he's going to be kicked out of the courtroom. But the bad news about that is that could give defense a great grounds for appeal, which I talked about more in depth in a shorter video on a short reel / TikTok video and on the previous midday recap. Now, before Jane was called to the witness stand, Judge Subramanian outside the presence of the jury, the prosecutors advised him that Jane would be referring to her sexual encounters involving men in front of Combs as hotel nights, not freak-offs. Now, freak-offs were used, the term was, but it was predominantly hotel nights. The phrasing differed from that used by Cassie, who had previously described similar events as freak-offs, right? Despite the different testimony, prosecutors noted that Jane's descriptions of the events were similar to, and in many respects, identical to those given by Ventura. Now, you're going to hear a lot of stuff when we get into this, guys. You're going to hear a lot of stuff. That's going to sound very similar to what Cassie testified on, right? You're going to hear a lot of stuff that's very similar. These two don't know each other. Their relationships, the timeline didn't cross even a little bit. Yet they have very similar stories. Very similar stories. So, Jane takes a stand. Again, she's testifying under a pseudonym. The judge did address the jury with an important instruction. He explained that while jurors will learn Jane's true identity during the proceedings, her name will not be spoken publicly in court in order to protect her privacy. All right. Once on the stand, Jane began answering questions from Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey. Comey asked Jane to identify who she was in a relationship with between the years of 2021 and 2024. Sean Combs. Jane also shared a glimpse into the nature of their relationship, explaining that she and Combs used various. This guy's God, so much of the shit he does is so cringe. This is another one. Okay, somebody said Jane is the new Cassie. 100%. 100%. I agree. And basically, she explained that she and Combs used various nicknames for each other. She would call him Sean, Baby, Schnookums, and Ernie. Ernie. All right. The couple would playfully refer to themselves as Bert and Ernie, like the beloved characters from Sesame Street. Right? On the stand, Jane testified that she first met Sean Diddy Combs during a girls' trip to Miami. This was in late 2020. The trip had been organized by a friend of hers who was romantically involved with Sean Combs at the time. According to James, Combs paid for Jane Combs paid for the entire trip. During the trip, Jane and her friends were invited to a dinner that Combs hosted at his Miami home. Jane recalled that the trip lasted about 5 days in total and that she saw Combs on roughly 3 of those days. She described the first impression of him during that dinner, saying that he was very nice, charming, really nice. I was already drawn to him. I was drawn to him pretty instantly. She said that he was very hospitable and funny. At dinner, the group moved on to a yacht to continue the evening's festivities. Jane described those initial encounters as lighthearted and flirtatious. There was a bit of flirting going on. During that same 2020 yacht party, Combs asked Jane to exchange phone numbers with him. They saved each other contact under playful nicknames Bert and Ernie. Bert and Ernie. Weird. Later that evening, the group returned to Combs' Miami home and spent the time using the pool. At one point, Jane accompanied Combs to a studio to retrieve what she described as a pink powder substance. She testified that another girl in the group had asked for substances and that a man in the studio handed Combs the pink powder. Curious about the substance, Jane asked if it was safe. And in response, she recalled the men looked at her as if to say, yeah, it's the best. However, tensions arose soon after. According to Jane, her friend, who was still romantically involved with Combs, began to suspect that there was something going on between Jane and Sean. As a result, the group abruptly left Combs' house that night. Now, despite an awkward end to the night, Jane testified that Combs continued to pursue her. The next day, she said that Combs hosted a pool party for the group. On the final day in Miami, they all watched a movie together. During the movie, Jane said Combs was texting her, asking if he could take her out. Jane just responded that they would be in touch. After she returned from the trip, Jane testified that Combs kept texting and calling her. I remember he was flirtatious. He was inviting me to Miami. At first, Jane said she was hesitant to engage with him because her friend still had feelings for him. However, after her friend became engaged to somebody else, Jane said she began to feel more comfortable considering a relationship with Combs. She testified that her first Miami trip with him had taken place in November of 2020. The next time she saw him in Miami was in January of 2021. Jane explained that she had already planned to be in Miami for an event, and Combs offered to book her a hotel for her stay. On the first night of her trip, Combs arrived at the hotel room. Jane described him as larger than life with a big personality and undeniable charm. The first, which is the part of the honeymoon phase and what people like him do to get, the people to trust them and date them. Their first date began that night with a private dinner on her hotel balcony and ended up lasting 5 days. During that initial dinner, they discussed personal matters, including the father of Jane's child, a man Combs reportedly did not get along with. Jane also shared that she had dated a close friend of Combs back in 2015. According to her testimony, Combs told her that he didn't care about any of that. He didn't care about any of the past, any of the baggage, any of that stuff. Jane recalled the first night as amazing and said the two of them made lots of love. Over the next several days, they continued spending time together, getting to know each other better. Jane testified that on those early encounters, her feelings for Combs deepened pretty quickly. She described herself as pretty head over heels following that January trip. The following month, in February of 21, Jane said that she and Combs went on another vacation together. I told him my birthday was coming up, and he was super excited and said we should go on an island getaway. The trip took them first to Turks and Caicos and then to the Bahamas. And according to Jane, the entourage included Combs' assistant, KK, a chef, a photographer, butler, and a barber. She testified that the trip lasted approximately 15 days. Jane described the experience fondly, recalling so many lovely things about the trip and emphasizing that she and Combs spent significant one-on-one time together during that period. During the Turks and Caicos portion of the trip, Jane testified that Combs gave her a bracelet that said love on it. She also detailed her substance use on the vacation, saying that she and Combs took ecstasy together around 10 times over the course of 9 days that they spent on Turks and Caicos. So they were constantly rolling, y'all. Jane testified that she had only used substances twice in her life prior to this trip. She described the first time Combs gave her ex that they were relaxing in the pool and he held out the substance, said, "Here, take this," adding something like, "It'll be more fun." After taking it for the first time, she experienced a reaction and collapsed onto the sand on the beach. She recalled Combs' butler and his assistant KK. By the way, it's Christina Courtroom, in case you guys didn't know that. I assume that y'all do. Most of y'all probably do, but just in case. Former chief of staff was also what she was, tried to help her. At the end of the trip, Jane testified that Combs offered her $10,000 because she'd been away from her work as an influencer for so long. He ultimately wired her the money. It was a lot of money for me at the time. She testified that the ecstasy she took during the Turks and Caicos trip made her feel relaxed, euphoric, and sexual. It enhanced touch and sense. It made me feel even more loving and flirtatious with him. Throughout the remainder of the trip, Jane said that she took X several more times, according to her testimony. Diddy provided the substances and personally determined her dosage each time. Okay, let me say that again. He's the one who measured out her dosage, guys. Every time she got some, he's the one who measured out the dosage. I think that part's really important for y'all to know or think about when we think about all of the other stuff that we've heard up to this point and what we'll probably hear after, right? That he's the one measuring out the dosage. Anyways, continuing on. Upon returning home from the vacation, she testified that her emotional attachment to Combs had intensified. That she was even deeper in her feelings for Sean. I wanted to say that we even started using the L word. I was really deep in it. Jane said that while Combs expressed that he liked her, he also made it clear that he was seeing multiple women. That I liked him, so I was okay with it. He described their arrangement as an open relationship and said she understood that monogamy was not being offered. However, Jane testified that for her own part, she remained monogamous because in her heart, she just wanted to see Sean, so she was monogamous. Jane also confirmed that her relationship with Combs lasted. By the way, this is an important part too. Their relationship ended when he was arrested. She was with him until his arrest. All right. Now, Jane further testified that the relationship between her and Combs was kept mostly private. She said she may have posted about him on social media only once during their time together. At the beginning of their relationship, Jane was living on the East Coast. In June of 21, she relocated to California. According to her testimony, Combs gave her money to assist with the move, including $6,000 for a moving truck. Throughout the course of their relationship, he would also periodically transfer her money just because. Now, between February and May of 21, Jane testified that she would see Combs every other week as he regularly flew her out to Miami. She provided additional details about the nature of their relationship during this period. She testified that between February and May of 21, she used substances every time she saw him. He would often offer to take them to her when they were about. He would often offer them to her. When they were about to have relations. The drugs included ecstasy, Molly, the white powdery stuff, and K. During this time, Jane testified that she learned about Combs' specific preferences. I learned how he liked to have adult content playing. I learned how he preferred me to dress. I just learned the things that he liked sexually. She said that Combs preferred her to wear provocative lingerie and really high stripper shoes and to apply baby oil on her body with baby oil on both her body and his. Okay? So again, very similar to what we heard from Cassie. The lingerie, the shoes, the baby oil, right? Candles as well. Their encounters would typically take place in Combs' bedroom, which was lit with red lights. She testified these sessions could last anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. My God. 12 to 24 hours. Who has that in? He's like 50-something, guys. He's like 56 years old. Anyways, good for him, I guess, but not really because he's a criminal. Allegedly. Unconvicted. Criminal. Anyway, at the stage in their relationship, Jane described these experiences as deeply affectionate and meaningful to her, saying, "I really loved my partner. I was just making love with my partner the whole time. Lots of affection and kissing and lovemaking." She said, "Somebody goes 24 hours, I'd be dead." Yes, same. She emphasized the intensity of their connection at the time, saying, "It felt like Sean was really passionate, and he brought out a lot of passion out of me too. And the way he would compliment me and be so into me was just really like enjoying one another." Spain. People like, yeah, that's a long time. Nobody wants to be doing that for that long. I mean, if you do, good for you, no judgment. Good God. 12 to 24 hours is a lot. Jane then began to grow emotional, visibly emotional on the stand as she recounted what happened between her and Sean Combs in May of 2021. When Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey asked about the incident, Jane lowered her head and dabbed her eyes with a tissue. Jane testified that on that night, the two of them had already been awake for many hours in his bedroom, having relations and taking substances. During the course of the night, Jane said Combs began asking her to fantasize about being with other men. Here it comes, guys. Here it comes. Asking her to start fantasizing about being with other men. He asked if she would want to do something like that. Jane said that she replied, okay, believing that they were only engaging in fantasy talk. I was just playing into the fantasy, she told prosecutors, not thinking anything would actually happen that night. But then things escalated quickly. According to James, Jane Combs picked up his phone and told her, we can make that happen tonight. Taken aback, Jane said she again replied, okay. When Comey asked why she responded that way, Jane said, because my partner was excited and it was already happening. Within a few hours, Jane testified that they were in a hotel suite in Miami. Combs' assistant had been in the room beforehand. Before she even agreed, they were already in the room setting up the space with the red lights in a hotel room before she agreed. Before he got her into doing it. All right. They were in a hotel suite. After the assistants left, Combs told Jane to relax while they waited for the man to arrive. He reassured her by saying that he knew the man and that he was really nice. Jane testified that she was super nervous and still high from the substances she had taken earlier with Combs. When the man arrived, Combs went to greet him, and then eventually Jane called Jane to join them. According to Jane, Combs introduced the man as Don and told her he was from the escort service. Guess which one? Have we heard it before? Cowboys for Angels. That's the one that Cassie would have to pick from as well. Jane testified that she ultimately had relations with Don while Combs watched. Afterwards, Don left the hotel room. Jane said that after Don's departure, she and Combs had relations, and she recalled that they were very happy in that moment. The next day, Jane accompanied Combs and his friends on a yacht outing. Jane testified that in the immediate aftermath of that night, she initially felt exhilarated. I felt excited. I was happy. It was taboo. It was fun. I had a good time with my partner. At the time, she believed the experience had been a one-off event. I thought it was something we did just that one time. Might do it again on a random other occasion. However, Jane said that the night ultimately marked a turning point in their relationship. I truly felt that that night just opened like a Pandora's box in the relationship. It just completely set the tone for our relationship moving forward. She described the dynamic that followed as something she could not undo. It opened a door that I was unable to shut for the remainder of our relationship. Comey asked Jane why she had wanted to shut that door, and Jane said there was so much of it after, and it was too much of it. Jane testified that throughout her relationship with Combs, she had only wanted to sleep with him and not other men. Jane testified that the first hotel night occurred in 2021. Remember, hotel night is freak off. Occurred in 2021 during a night when she was at Sean's house doing substances and sleeping with him. She told the jury that Combs introduced the idea as part of a fantasy. We would search specific things on websites in the middle of being high. He just really wanted me to fantasize or talk about other men and this type of role play about other men. During the role play, Combs escalated the situation. He started saying, I can make this fantasy a reality. If you really like to have it happen, I can make it happen. Feeling the pressure to please him, she responded with, okay. It seemed he wanted that, and it was really turning him on, and I was really into my partner, and so I said, okay. Combs then began making arrangements to hire an escort within a few hours. Again, they were in that Miami hotel room. This is just a little bit more information on it, where they had already set everything up, and it was in the style of a freak-off. Then the experience became moving forward quick. She estimates that about 90% of the time that she slept with Combs after May of 21, it involved other men. 90% of the time. After she had slept with Combs after May of 21, 90% of the time it involved other men. Initially, Jane said she went along with it because her feelings for Combs. I feared losing him. I just wanted to be everything that he wanted. By late 2021, however, Jane began telling Combs that she no longer wanted to do this. She communicated her wishes both verbally and in writing, though she relied more heavily on the written message because conversations on the topic seemed so tense. Whenever this topic came up, it would start out really uncomfortable. I could just feel the tensions were building, and I would just kind of push down what I was going to say. When she did bring it up, Combs was often dismissive and would sometimes call her crazy for raising the subject. On other occasions, he would say that it was fine and that they didn't have to do it anymore. But despite those assurances, we would still do it. She then testified that throughout their relationship, Sean Combs paid for the rent of her home, a fact that ultimately made her feel financially trapped. A few months after their first hotel night, Jane said she told Combs that she no longer wanted to participate in these sessions with male escorts. However, according to her testimony, Combs would brush the topic off and the freak offs or hotel nights would continue. Jane said that as time went on, the fact that Combs was paying her rent made her feel increasingly obligated to go along with these encounters. It really started to stem from the fact that my partner was paying my rent. When she would try to assert her boundaries and express that she no longer wanted to be with other men, Combs would respond by saying things like, "If you want to break up, that's fine." He would also remind her that he would not keep paying rent for a woman he was no longer seeing. "You need 3 more months in the house because I'm not about to be paying for a woman's rent I'm not even seeing." That's what he said to her. Jane testified that during those conversations, she was not trying to end the relationship. She just simply wanted to stop participating in these sessions with other men. She felt frustrated and she felt obligated to perform on these nights with him. So I'm going to pause real quick and say, this is what happens. And there's a little more background we're going to get into, and we'll talk about it, of course. But she wants to bring it up. She says, "Hey, I'm not comfortable with what we're doing in the bedroom here. I'm not comfortable with the other guys." Well, if you want to break up, that's fine. So your choices are either keep doing it or break up. She's in love with him, right? She's manipulated into this situation. He's got her under financial control, and you're going to see why a little bit here in a minute as we talk. But yeah, just kind of putting that, anyways. Jay testified, though, that her time with Combs was unpredictable and largely on his terms. According to her, Combs would provide little advance notice before wanting to see her, sometimes calling the day or even the night before. In response to this unpredictability, Jane said she made sure to keep herself prepared at all times. She arranged proper childcare to ensure she was always available and kept her appearance up to Combs' preferences. Jane testified that Combs liked her to wear her hair straight and to have light-colored nails. Does this, again, sound something familiar that we heard from Cassie? And from my understanding, he has his daughters wear light-colored nails, too, and their hair's all straight. Very weird. Anyways, very weird. She also testified that Combs referred to the encounters involving other men as debauchery or hotel nights. According to Jane, from May of 2021 until October of 23, they had a hotel night every single time she saw him. From May 21 until October of 23, every single time she saw him, they had a hotel night. They took a break in their relationship from October 23 through February of 24. While they would occasionally spend time alone after one of these nights, Jane said the encounters continued to dominate their time together. "I felt like it was a hotel night the whole time." Jane also testified that her relationship with Combs had a profound impact on her ability to work and earn income. "I would say that when I was with Sean, I was really consumed by him. I was really consumed by Sean. Because of the unpredictable nature for when she would be called to see him, she had to constantly prioritize being ready for him at a moment's notice." Remember, she's an influencer. And I can tell you from the side of things that I'm on, it takes a lot of prep work to put things together. And you can't be an influencer and constantly be at somebody's beck and call the way it is. And he's now paying her what she's making online. So there you go. Now, prior to their relationship, Jane earned money through her social media work. However, she testified that her presence on social media declined. I probably should have said that part after I read this, but significantly after she prioritized the relationship. Her presence on social media really declined after I prioritized this relationship, he said. Jane testified that Combs would periodically give her money, typically in amounts ranging from $5,000 to $10,000 if paid in cash. And if the amount was larger, Combs would wire the money to her account. So $5,000 to $10,000 paid cash. Anything bigger he would give her, just wired. The largest amount he ever gave her at one time was $20,000, which she requested for buying some furniture for her home, a home which Combs also paid the rent on. At one point, she proposed starting an OnlyFans account to generate income. She testified that a friend of hers had earned $4 million in 1 year on the platform. Maybe I'm on the wrong platform, guys, although nobody wants to see all of this. Anyways, earned $4 million in 1 year on the platform, and she believed she could be successful posting bikini, lingerie, or nude photos. Jane emphasized that she had no plans to post any type of activity. However, when she raised the idea to Combs, he was hesitant and told her to wait. Jane then testifies that after she and Sean Combs broke up following a fight, she testified that after she and Sean Combs broke up following a fight and later reconciled, Combs proposed that they set some terms for their renewed relationship. According to Jane, Combs suggested they established what she described as a verbal flirty contract. During this conversation, Combs asked Jane how much of a monthly allowance she would want, and they ultimately agreed on $10,000. Rather than receiving the allowance in cash, Jane told the court she wanted to use it towards renting a nice home. Combs agreed, and they chose to pay her rent directly instead of giving her the money. She just wanted to experience something that was nice, so I could feel some sort of balance in our relationship. To corroborate this arrangement, prosecutors showed the jury an email from Combs' accountant that had been sent to Jane and her landlord regarding the payment of Jane's rent. Jane further testified that between May of 21 and October of 23, the hotel nights she shared with Combs were not confined to Miami. According to Jane, these encounters took place in multiple locations, including LA, New York, Miami, and Turks and Caicos. They typically coordinated her travel between through Combs' teams. She said that she usually arranged the details with KK, as well as with his travel agent or one of his assistants. Combs covered all of her travel expenses. Jane testified that the hotel nights followed a highly consistent and elaborate pattern regardless of the location. Hotel rooms would always be decorated with red lighting and music. The linens, bedsheets, blankets, and towels would be used to cover all surfaces. She explained that this was done to accommodate what she called the obsessive use of baby oil. Right? During these encounters, according to Jane, they would go through more than 24 bottles of baby oil in a single hotel night. 24 bottles, 24 bottles in a single hotel night. And if you remember what Cassie told us, Cassie said he liked the big bottles and liked them warmed up. All right. She said he really enjoyed watching me pour oil all over myself and all over the man. And that, my friends, is where testimony left off today. Direct examination is going to continue tomorrow at 9 a.m. Maureen Comey says she's going to work very hard to get finished direct questioning by the end of Monday. So we're going to still be in direct questioning all day tomorrow and probably all day Monday. The judge told jurors that they would remain until 5 p.m. on Friday and may need to stay late on some days next week as well. And the biggest reason for that, y'all, is because Jane's got to catch an international flight, right? So there was something I wanted to say about this whole situation. Something that I read up, I forgot to put in the notes regarding Jane and this rent thing. So Jane originally lived in a different city, and Diddy convinced her to move out to LA, which she couldn't afford to do, right? And so he paid $6,000 for the moving truck and got her out there and everything. And by the time she was out here, she was basically completely under her financial control, right? So that's kind of part of the situation. Is he's now got her out in LA, got her stuck where she's at. She says she doesn't want to do these hotel nights anymore. And he says, fine, then we can break up. And she's like, wow, I don't want to break up. I just don't want to fuck other guys. That's what she's saying. I just want to be with you. Pardon the crassness, right? But it's very similar. Again, Cassie and Jane did not cross paths, guys. They did not cross paths. They were completely separate time frames. Yet, how similar are these stories? How similar are these stories? How similar are they to what the assistants have said? Right? So that's my point. Now, lastly, if you aren't following on any of if wherever you're watching this, hit the follow button if you don't mind. It's something free that you can do to support. I never ask you guys for super chats or gifts or anything like that. So one thing free that you guys can do that can help me out tremendously is just hit that follow button. All you got to do. That being said, we will be back tomorrow with updates on this. I will be getting you guys today. It's my goal, at least today. Getting you information on Travis Decker that you guys can share out. Please, let's not forget about him. Find him. And again, if you are in that part of Washington, please take heed on what law enforcement says. Lock your doors, keep lights on, any outbuildings, make sure that they're secured, and just be safe and diligent while you're out there. Again, if you came in late, lastly, if you came in late, you can watch this on the Sean Diddy Combs playlist on my YouTube, where it always will be. And like I said, very final thing that I will say, and I'm going to make a decision tomorrow about possibly taking these down to one a day. So when y'all come in, you can hear the whole recap and not miss any of the middle stuff as well. It'll make these a little bit longer, but you'll get a lot more information. So, and I would love some feedback for people watching this later on the replay on YouTube. Drop some feedback on what you guys think about that. That said, have a great rest of the evening, y'all. And we will see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.